Welcome back. You're still with us on Startup Street. Now, the Bureau of Indian Standards has approved India's first indigenously developed connector standard for 2- and 3-wheelers. This first connector standard that has been approved has been developed by electric two-wheeler maker Ather Energy. Now, the development could pave the way for a common electric vehicle charging system that can be adopted by several companies. My colleague Parikshit Luthra spoke to Ather's co-founder Swapnil Jain and started by asking him the significance of this development. Take a look.
The design has actually been made public almost 6 to 8 months back itself. We had even before the standard was approved, we had actually made it open for any OEM to adopt our standard, and we will not only open the standard but also help them adopt the standards into their vehicle as well. So we have been having conversations with a few of the OEMs on that front as well. And as you said, this will completely change the picture of charging infrastructure related to two-wheeler in the country. Currently, due to lack of a standard for the charging infrastructure, especially for two-wheelers, has led to every OEM trying to build their own charging infrastructure and with a different standards, not allowing interoperability between them. But having a defined standard which can be adopted by any OEM, this would essentially mean that not only it becomes easier for OEMs to start adopting standards and have an interoperability between their charging stations and somebody else's charging station, it also opens ways for third-party charge point operators to start developing now charging stations for two-wheeler manufacturers. This has been already happening for four-wheeler, but this was something which was not available for two-wheelers because of the different standard for every OEM. But now this means that OEMs and charge point operators, all of them can independently develop charging stations, which can be used by all the OEMs, and which means that a lot more access for all the customers to the charging infrastructure.
Swapnil, also just clarify for us, you're saying that BIS has selected and approved the connector standard that has been developed by Ather Energy. Will this be the only formula, only design that will be approved, and others will have to follow this as a standard? Or could other companies be approved by BSI, the Bureau of Indian Standards, as well?
Yeah, so this is actually, while it was developed by Ather, it's not an Ather standard as such. That's why what we did is we made it public. What it means that anyone can actually build and on top of it and actually improve the standard itself. It doesn't have to be Ather's standard. We had no intent of holding the IP on it. We are the first ones to build it, and we believe that it can help the entire EV ecosystem, and that's why we opened it up. What ideally should happen is that forming a consortium where all the OEMs can work together on further improving the standard based on everyone else's input as well. It doesn't have to be that every OEM has to get their standards get it standardized. That is not the intent, because again it breaks the whole intent of having one standard for the country. What ideally should happen is all the OEMs now start coming together and build on top of what the existing standard is.
Okay. Give us a sense of the kind of collaborations you're looking for in terms of charging. Right now, you have about 1,500 charging points across the country, if I'm not wrong. What do you want to take it to? What kind of collaborations are you looking for?
Yeah, so I think independently, Ather itself would looking at doubling up the charging stations in next 9 to 12 months time frame. That's been our formula as well. Every city we start selling, we start by first establishing charging stations, and then we start sales in that particular city or town. And we'll continue with that thought process. We also continue to install more charging stations in the existing cities as well. Bangalore has now 100+ charging stations just in Bangalore itself. From a collaboration front, I think the biggest thing is all the OEMs start adopting to the standard and start moving to the standard earlier. That would essentially mean that now more access for people to use other charging stations as well, not just Ather's charging station, but anyone else's charging station as well. For example, today, Hero Vida and Ather share the connector standard, which means that our vehicles can operate on each other's charging infrastructure as well. And with more OEMs coming on board, this would make it even wider for any OEM to charge on anyone else's charging station.
Right.
And as I said, having more charger point operators also coming in, that's going to be another game changer as well.
All right. My final question would be on the festive outlook. What's been the month-to-month increase in sales and production, and what's your outlook for the festive season up until probably the end of this year?
Yeah, I think the entire last few months have been a bit ups and downs for the industry. But again, in the last couple of months, the volumes have recovered and have been steadily increasing. This festive season, we are already seeing a pretty good start, and we definitely believe that the volumes will start hopefully reaching of the numbers somewhere which are there around in March, April, that sort of a time frame.
All right. Thank you very much, Swapnil, for joining us here on Startup Street.
With that, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup